Welcome students, I'm Dr. Sonu Shiva, Associate Professor, Department of English, Government Dungar College, Bikaner. This session is for BA second year, English Literature, paper 2nd, which is prose and fiction, and in this paper you have short stories. In this session we'll be dealing with The Gift of the Magi. In my previous session I have already taken up half of the story and we are going to continue from where we left. So just for a recap, the story, The Gift of the Magi, it starts with a very awkward situation where a poor couple, that is Jim and Della, they do not have enough money to celebrate Christmas. This author, O. Henry, also writes about the utter poverty of this couple and shows that how painful it is to keep their love alive in such an economic crunch. O. Henry uses very simple language, but he uses wit to demonstrate the story. We see in the story, right from the beginning, that Della has been saving for months and she has been able to save only $1.87. She has spent hours to plan a beautiful gift, but she's very sad and she's crying because she does not have enough money to buy anything for her husband. Her savings are way too short and she cannot do without giving Jim something for Christmas. Then as the story proceeds, we see that she decides to sell the best gift she has, that is her beautiful hair, which is like a brown waterfall, which she sells for $20. After that, we find her ransacking all the stores to find a suitable gift for her husband. And then we see that she purchases a fob chain for the watch of Jim. She returns and now she is waiting for her husband's arrival. When Della reached home, her intoxication gave way a little to prudence and reason. Now she's thinking about it. She has lighted the gas and she's working on repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love, which is always a tremendous task, dear friends, a mammoth task. Now here the author talks about generosity added to love. The love that Della has, or the love that Jim has towards her, it is not just love, it is generosity added to love. It's sacrificial love, where they are ready to do anything for the other. And here, up till now, till half of the story, we find that it's about Della who has sacrificed the only thing that she had, the only valuable thing she had, that is her hair, and she has sacrificed out of her generosity, out of her love towards Jim, she has sacrificed that. And this sacrificing everything in love is always a tremendous task. That writer is saying it's a huge task, it's a mammoth task. So this is really important lines of the story, and you should remember that these lines are also the purpose behind writing this story. So in your exams you need to quote these lines. Within 40 minutes her hair was covered with tiny close-lying curls that made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy. She looked at her reflection in the mirror long, carefully and critically. Now Della is looking at herself, and what she thinks is, if Jim doesn't kill me. So there is an element of fear that is involved, that how Jim is going to feel when he sees that Della got her hair cut off. She said to herself, before he takes a second look at me, he'll say, I look a Coney Island chorus girl, but what could I do? Oh, what could I do with $1.87? She's sad because the money she had as a saving was really too less to purchase any gift. So out of this feeling, she has given her hair off, and with this she was now able to purchase something for Jim that would match Jim's taste, or that would match Jim's personality and her love towards him. At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made and the frying pan was on the back of the stove, hot and ready to cook the chops. Jim was never late. Della is waiting for Jim, and she is having this fob chain in her hand, and she's sitting in the corner of the table near the door where he always entered. Then she heard his step on the stair away down the first flight, and she turned white for just a moment. She suddenly became afraid. She has that element of fear inside. She is in a habit of saying silent little prayers about the simplest everyday things, and now she whispered, "Please, God, make him think I'm still pretty." Because she's quite nervous that maybe her cut hair doesn't make her look as pretty as before in her husband's eyes. The door opened and Jim stepped in and closed it. Now, here the climax of the story starts. He steps in. He looked thin and very serious. Poor fellow. He was only 22 and to be burdened with a family. He needed a new overcoat and he was without gloves. So all this thing shows that how poor they were. And now readers feel that tension. What is going to happen? What will be the reaction of Jim? He stepped inside the door as immovable as a setter at the scent of the quail. Suddenly he got fixed. His eyes were fixed upon Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not read. It terrified her, and she was really scared. It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she had been prepared for. So she was not able to read what was there in the eyes of her husband. He simply stared at her fixedly with that peculiar expression on his face. Della wriggled off the table and went for him. She said, "Jim, darling, don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold it because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present." She gives the reason why she has her hair cut off. And somewhere she is trying to console him that it'll grow out again. You won't mind, will you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what a nice and what a beautiful, nice gift I've got for you. Now, here Jim is absolutely surprised and he is in a fix. He's not able to get into this idea that Della has her hair cut off. So he's asking, "You have cut off your hair?" asked Jim laboriously, as if he had not arrived at the patent fact yet, even after the hardest mental labor. "Cut it off and sold it," said Della. "Don't you like me just as well? Anyhow, I'm me without my hair, ain't I?" Jim looked about the room curiously. "You say your hair is gone?" he said, with the air of almost idiocy. So Jim is still not able to believe that Della has given off her hair. She has cut off her hair. Now Della is trying to console him that you don't need to look for it. It's sold. I tell you, sold and gone. It's Christmas Eve, boy. Be good to me. And it went for you. Maybe the hair of my head were numbered. She went on with a sudden serious sweetness, but nobody could ever count my love for you. Shall I put the chops on, Jim? Out of his trance, Jim seemed quickly to wake. Suddenly now Jim realizes the reality that the hair of Della are gone. He unfolded his Della. For 10 seconds, let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object in the other direction. Now, after this, the writer, he takes you to a different dimension where he's talking that $8 a week or $1 million on a year, what is the difference? A mathematician or a wit would give you the wrong answer. So he says that people who are practical, people who are calculative, they always can show you the difference between money. And if you ask them difference, they're going to give a very wrong answer to that. The Magi brought valuable gifts, but that was not among them. This dark assertion will be illuminated later on. He says Magi also brought valuable gifts for Christ, but he says that that was not among them. Why? Because the gift that Della has brought for Jim, it is something which is matchless, and he tries to prove that the gifts that they shared with each other, that is Della and Jim, the amount of love, that is most valuable. And he says that how how valuable the gifts are, this is going to illumine in the story later on. Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and threw it upon the table. And then he says that there is nothing in this world that can make her love less. But he says that if you unwrap that package, you may see why you had me going wild at first, why he was so shocked, why he was so surprised. If she's going to unwrap that package that he put on the table, only then she's going to understand why he was looking at her like that. Now, Della, she opens that paper and then she's extremely joyful in the beginning, and then alas, there's a quick change of emotion. She starts crying hysterical tears and wails, necessitating the immediate employment of all the comforting powers of the Lord of the Flat. So Jim had to comfort her with all his energy and with all his care, because there lay the combs, the set of combs, side and back, that Della has worshipped for long in a Broadway window. Beautiful combs, pure tortoise shell with jeweled rims, just the shade to wear in the beautiful vanished hair. So Jim has brought beautiful set of combs for her hair, and the hair, as we know, she has already sold. They were expensive combs, she knew, and she yearned over them. She wanted to have them for such a long time. And now they were hers. But the hair, tresses, that means hair, that should have adorned the coveted adornments were gone. The hair were gone. So we come to know that the gift that Jim has brought for her, that gift is at present of no use to her. And then she hugged them to her bosom, and then in order to console herself, she says again those lines, "My hair grows so fast, Jim." And then Della wanted to show her surprise to Jim, and then she showed this beautiful present. She eagerly opened her palm, and there that fob chain that she had purchased for Jim, that was shining, this dull precious element. And she says, "Isn't it dandy, Jim? Isn't it beautiful? I hunted all over the town to find it. You'll have a look at the time 100 times a day now. So you'll be very eager to see the time now. Give me a watch. I want to see how it looks on it." Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hand under the back of his head and smiled. So when Della was asking him for the watch, Jim, instead of giving her watch, he sat on the couch and he started smiling. He said, "Let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them while they're too nice to use just as present. I sold the watch to get money to buy your combs, and now suppose you put the chops on." So we find that there is a surprise turn that Jim has sold his watch to buy her combs, and she has sold her hair to buy the chain for the watch. And suddenly you find that both of their efforts have gone useless. But here, O. Henry has got something really important and interesting to say. First, let's read it. "The Magi, as you know, were wise men, wonderfully wise men, who brought gifts to the babe in the manger. They invented the art of giving Christmas presents. Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication. Even any richest gift can be duplicated. And here I have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat, who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of the house." So in a very foolish manner, you see, in a very unwise manner, they have sacrificed. They never even thought that other is going to sacrifice this thing for her. So they have sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of the house. Jim has given his watch away and Della has given her hair away. But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all who give gifts, these two are the wisest. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are wisest, everywhere they are wisest, they are the Magi. Now, what exactly O. Henry means by this is that when wise people, they give gifts or they do anything, they do wise things, but there is nothing extraordinary or big about it. But when it's two innocent people sacrificing their most valuable belongings for the gift for the beloved one, there is something which is matchless in it. And this is how author develops the irony in the story to prove that Della and Jim are Magi, They are the Magi, he says, and they are the ones uh, that give the wisest gift to each other because their love is strongest and the gift is most valuable. So we see that the two central characters of the story, they are very innocent and they are happily married and they are deeply in love. And author also tries to show that how poverty makes their love stronger, and these two are willing to sacrifice the best of the thing that they had, uh, for the hair and this watch which they had. They are ready to sacrifice this for Christmas and to make it their love memorable for each other. This story, The Gift of Magi, also has some very important themes like love, sacrifice, poverty, and value of partnership and wisdom. And we also see that so much of love and sacrifice for each other is clearly evident in among these both characters, that is Jim and Della. Uh, in the end, we should remember that both Jim and Della have shown that they are willing to sacrifice most valuable thing they have to give to each other. This makes their useless gift incredibly valuable after all the selfless love each feels for the other is embodied in these gifts. As long as they have the gifts, they'll be able to remember it. The kind of a thing that can't be bought. And it makes the gift even more special and personal than what they replaced. So the gift that both have given each other, that is of sacrificial love, generosity full of love, this thing is something which can never be replaced, and they're going to remember their love for each other forever. So that's the end of the story. And in your exams, you need to know and you need to write the purpose and what exactly O. Henry is trying to say through this story. So if you are able to reflect that in your answers, then only your answer will be good and worthwhile. You don't have to write the whole story in that, but you have to write the purpose of the story. Thank you.